Hi, good morning. Thank you everyone for being here. It's early in the morning for some of us, at least for me, that I'm coming from New York, so a little bit asleep yet. um, we all know the power of esports and gaming. We know the numbers; they are quite incredible. The size, how it's growing, and how it means for a lot of users, gamers, and everyone that is here. The interesting thing also is the how the pie of esports is split, and how streaming, digital merchandising, publishing, media, and sponsorship means for each of the teams and the whole ecosystem. Where we look at digital, it's a small part of the pie, mostly for publishers. When you look at merchandising and tickets, what is generated from the users, we are just talking about 7.8%, which is even less so if we are only talking about the teams. So when we think about this, what is the problem for the teams, or how the monetization of the teams, we see there a big thing of it that can improve and change. What is our strategy to do so? The first thing is engaging the community, and that's through the users, the gamers, playing tournaments, not as a platform for monetization, but a platform for engagement. And grow that engagement with the teams, partnering with the teams, so that the community develops additional skills, they compete, and they engage with these big brands. The second strategy to onboard this community, or to monetize, and it's through the community hubs. And the idea of this is breaking up the wall between the gamers, the fans, and the teams. And to do so, we think of um, um, to, to have membership passes, and to allow these holders of the membership passes to have special experiences, merch, sure, but also being able to attend in real life events, to have other community-based assets that help them feel as a community and feel more part of something bigger. And the third thing is, and that goes on to the digital assets that we talked about before, is democratization. It's not only allowing publishers to benefit from the ownership or the development of assets, but also the fans being part of this economy. And for that is the idea of decentralized IP, a concept that is, if you want, pretty new, but very much, but a great way of showing this is what Bored Apes have been doing recently. And the idea is to unlock the power of these communities, to leverage on these communities, to take the brands of the teams to the next level. And well, how to do this, right? That's the tricky part. And how we see these evolving is, first of all, with the communities, co-create a whole new world and decide what is the race of this avatar that is the character of the community, grow that, and decide what is the lore, the backstory, and have a whole world behind it. And yes, this is something done with the community, teams and the communities, and where does Fitting jumps in? Okay, we are helping the teams on giving all the tools for them to not only think of this idea, but also bring this idea to the hands of their fans. And then grow this avatar, evolve this avatar by the interaction inside the platform, and then bring it to the next level. And that might be taking them into the into games, into the metaverse, and so many more experiences. And what's the gameplay of all this is that it's the brand growth by leveraging this community, and that's the power in a way of Web3. All this, we are doing it with Nick here from MGH, and well, I'll leave it to you, Nick.
Awesome. Thank you, Santiago, and pleasure to be here, guys. Quickly about myself, I'm the founder of Meta Game Up DAO. We're basically a one-stop shop for the open metaverse, right? So we address the current needs from especially the B2B side. So on the one hand, we develop AI models for pricing valuations of NFTs, where we then have different application layers like on-chain for DeFi protocols, integrations into marketplaces, right? As well as working with asset managers to facilitate that data. Complementary to this and specifically relevant to Fichin, right, is that we also develop agnostically across the different virtual worlds, whether it is Decentraland, Sandbox, Sonium Space, or others, right? As well as we've developed the DCL Edit, which is currently the go-to editor tool in Decentraland. Long story short, right? The reason why we teamed up together is because, you know, in general, you know, there's a lot of talk about, okay, the metaverse currently, and you've heard it, right? Especially the recent crypto hype cycle. I'm not sure how many of you guys are into crypto even, but, you know, like metaverse was the overly dominant topic. But generally, the concept of the metaverse is something that has been around for quite a long time, actually, right? Even like back in the 90s, people were talking about the metaverse. So what really is happening now is not this fully new industry evolving, right? It's more something that is an evolution. If you look at generally the evolution of web, right? So people are not always going to engage with the internet through 2D websites or apps, right? So experiences will become more immersive. I mean, in gaming especially, these immersive experiences have been around for many years. But that's, so to say, so far has only been from that gamification part, right? Not necessarily from the social layer, not necessarily from the business layer that much, right? So that's really what's happening. And the Web3 part here is really providing more tangibility of value in this digital economy, right? And also actual ownership of these digital assets, which was so far not really possible, right? Because so far the ownership of digital assets, whether it is data, whether it is in-game assets, whether it is avatars, as Santiago mentioned, right? All these assets so far in the digital economy are owned or facilitated by centralized intermediaries, right? And that's something where the Web3 metaverse, if you wish, comes into play and solves that. And also, as you may have heard, there is a lot of talk about lands, right? Digital real estate, so to say. And what is really a land, right? At the end of the day, a land is, in my opinion, the way I see it, really just a Web3 domain in a sense, right? Yes, there are the ENS domains, to those that know them, that are like more, from my perspective, an identity layer, right? So the .eth addresses, but a land really is kind of that embodiment of where, you know, that engagement will take place. So right now, mostly people are engaging with the internet in a very 2D environment, right? As I said, through websites or apps. But in the future, lands will be that domain, at least if it all plays out like we hope and like we're building it for, right? Where these lands then respectively function as a place to socialize, to exchange value, to communicate, to receive and distribute information, right? So you can have all these aspects on top of a land, right? Just to give you some background. And of course, right, there's a lot of talk about should land be scarce, right? Of course, it should not. But at the same time, in different areas, you know, in different areas of clusters of value, of course, here it makes sense that land is scarce to a certain extent. So you may have heard about platforms or virtual worlds, you know, because I like to not say this metaverse here, this metaverse there, but more like there's one open metaverse, and this open metaverse consists of different compartments, different virtual worlds that also fulfill different purposes, that address different target groups, right? And in these different worlds, you know, of course, land can respectively be scarce, but at the same time, you know, the bigger picture itself, there is an infinite amount of land. And then you can kind of compare what the sandbox is as maybe the .io, Decentraland, the .com, and so on, right? I think you get the point. And in the specific case of Fichin, right, the metaverse part really is something super crucial there. because of course gamers are already used to having an immersive environment around them. And of course, at the same time, every gamer has different interests, right? So you're not going to be able to build just one metaverse presence like currently you see from a lot of projects or even IP like Adidas and other brands entering the space that have like one location, maybe in Decentraland, maybe in Sandbox. But down the road, what you're going to need is different metaverse activations, right, that fulfill different purposes. So for instance, right, in the case of Fichin specifically, Decentraland is a perfect use case for the teams, the esports teams, right, to socialize, to have events, to basically also have maybe some workshops, to meet new people of the teams, to conduct betting, on different games that are streamed, and things like this. Whereas then compared to the Sandbox, that is of course a more voxelized environment and a bit more like, for younger generations, you will have other experiences that are more driven by, gamified quests, collecting Easter eggs, these type of aspects, discovering new assets. So you kind of see, on the one hand you have the socializing aspect, on the other hand you have the gamification aspect, and then complementary to this, imagine if you are spending, 10 hours in front of your computer playing a game. At some point you also want to relax, right? And of course, then also the metaverse in a VR environment, for instance, can provide a very calming and immersive experience, right? Where you can maybe be in a nice environment that kind of detaches you from the standard daily work stress, so to say, as a gamer, right? So what the goal is, what we are trying to build in these different virtual worlds is different activations that then respectively, as I said, right, address the different target groups and specifically provide the value for them. But now again, we have kind of an issue, right? Because you have on the one hand the Fichin platform, you have on the other hand respective games, you have on the other hand the different metaverse activations. But at the same time, the user journey needs to be intuitive, right? So what the long-term vision is of what we are building is, so to say, the home base, right, for gamers in the open metaverse. The home base is a concept that can be compared maybe to something like Steam, right, in gaming, where at the end of the day, if you're looking at generally what are the most successful web applications, it's all about aggregation, right? Whether it is Steam, where you aggregate the gaming industry, whether it is Amazon, where you aggregate goods, whether it is Google, where you aggregate the web itself or data, right? Whether it is Facebook, where you have the aggregation of social layers. It's all about aggregation, right? So in general, also when it comes to the metaverse and Web3, aggregation is going to be the key to provide a holistic as well as an intuitive and seamless user journey. And here the home base comes into play, where of course it's not going to be again a 2D platform, right, where you just click on a few buttons and then you go to these experiences. But the way we are building it is actually, imagine you're sitting, so to say, in your cockpit, right, in a spaceship, and then you have, so to say, the entire space in front of you, and you can basically use that cockpit where you then travel to either a specific game that you are playing, a specific social experience, for instance, in Decentraland. You can even travel, let's say, to a DeFi world, right? To those that know, decentralized finance, right, is also one of the core crypto applications, and of course going to be provide a lot of value to gamers as well once they can leverage all their assets in DeFi to, for instance, collect loans, right? So you're going to have a lot of different activations that are aggregated in that home base, right? And that basically is then, so to say, the cockpit for the gamer. Right now, so to say, the gamer has their cockpit in front of their device at home or wherever they're playing, right? But of course, down the road, once we are moving more and more into this immersive digital world, there's going to be also a need for such an immersive cockpit in a sense, right? And that's where exactly the home base comes into play, where the different experiences in the respective virtual worlds are aggregated, where the gaming industry is aggregated, and any other social, financial, or even educational experience can be accessed intuitively for the gamers, right? And of course, it's a gradual process to get there, because aggregation is not easy. And here again, the avatars, as Santiago mentioned, are going to play a crucial role, right? Because at the end of the day, that home base is, so to say, something that is very much connected to your identity in the Web3 space, right? And generally the digital world that we live in, right? So the avatars are going to play a crucial role, so to say, being the suit of the identity, right? So when you are going to be in these different virtual worlds, in these different games, gaining experience points, energy as we call them, you're going to actually upgrade your avatar. You're going to upgrade your identity in a way, or you're going to have proofs, right, of that identity and that experience also on the blockchain.
It's not only how or where you're going, but who you are when you're going and with what you're going with, right? It's when you're part of a community, it also matters in a way who you are and that identity, who you are, and specifically how you view yourself inside that community, who you have become, what things you have on with you, and that can be wearables or it can be just what race you are because you are a fan of X or Y team, and that becomes in a way who you are with others, and that is as important as where you're going.
Awesome, perfect. So yeah, I mean that's it basically in regards to the long-term vision from our side. I don't know, guys, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. We're here on stage. We're also here around. So yeah, pleasure to be here and looking forward to shaping the future together with you.